Outgoing U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has emphasized the strength of ties with Japan during a trip to Tokyo, just days after President Joe Biden blocked a multi-billion-dollar takeover of U.S. Steel by a Japanese company. Biden halted Nippon Steel's bid, citing security concerns, prompting Nippon to retaliate with a lawsuit. The tensions risk damaging critical economic and diplomatic relations between the U.S. and its biggest foreign investor. Blinken skirted the issue during his address in Tokyo, saying that Japan and the U.S. have, quote, a friendship that has grown stronger than it's ever been.
Worked on regional issues and now is genuinely.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Lars Halter from our business desk. Lars, Nippon Steel is standing firm. It's actually filed now a legal challenge against the U.S. for blocking this merger deal. Why this decision by U.S. President Joe Biden has obviously angered Japan, or at least Nippon Steel. What's the reasoning? What's the basis for the legal challenge against the decision?
Yeah, Terry, hi. They basically say, to make it really short, that Biden wasn't honest. They say that Biden's reasoning to block this deal is essentially faulty. For that, we have to look at maybe what Biden said when he blocked it. And I want to quote in there, just so there's no misunderstandings. This acquisition, he says, would place one of America's largest steel producers under foreign control and create risk for our national security and our critical supply chains. Now, of course, that sounds really important. We all know what happened a couple of years ago during the pandemic when global supply chains fell apart. That is a risk to the economy of any country and thus also to national security. However, the steel companies both say this is essentially nonsense because there is more steel in the US and this is purely a political play. And it is kind of hard to argue with that if we just think back a couple of months during the campaign, how much of a campaign topic that was for both Biden and then later Kamala Harris and for President, or soon to be a President Trump. They both very much campaigned on this. So there is definitely a political side to this issue.
This is happening right at the end of Biden's term. Why would he go out on a limb for something like this now?
Yeah, that is really a good question. Certainly, there is one simple thing. He wants to go out on a good note with people, and there's jobs. There's a question of jobs, job cuts that he says he wants to prevent, of course. But certainly national security does play a role. Steel is absolutely clearly an important product that goes into so many industrial sectors of any economy, whether that is defense or auto or general industry, machinery. Of course, you don't necessarily want other countries to meddle with this.
But Japan is a close ally of the United States, a very close one. Anyway, moving on to Donald Trump. He's going to be president in just a couple of weeks from now. Could he change the outcome of this story?
I think that's unlikely because he campaigned on the exact same side as Biden did during the campaign. So he's definitely against this merger or takeover. But you're saying something very important here. Japan is an important ally to the United States, and the biggest in Asia that the United States have. That comes at a time now, this whole story, that the other big ally, South Korea, is weakened. And it comes at a time where the big Asian competitor, China, is getting stronger every day. So the U.S. needs allies, and I see this as a little bit of a test for Trump's isolationist strategies, America First strategy. We will see if this can even work out. You cannot just simply dictate unilaterally policy for others to abide by. So I guess even with 2 or 3 weeks to go before he's even in office, we see a little bit of a stress test here for Trump's America First policy.
Lars, thank you very much. Lars Halter from our business desk. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by William Chou. He's Deputy Director of Hudson Institute's Japan Chair and focuses on U.S.-Japan relations. William, help us out here because on the face of it, it's a bit confusing. We've got the U.S. Secretary of State in Japan praising strong ties between Washington and Tokyo. Meanwhile, President Biden is blocking a friendly takeover of a U.S. steelmaker by a Japanese one, calling it a national security risk. How does this fit together?
Well, I think this really highlights the split within the Biden administration. Certainly, Blinken, along with Secretary of Defense Austin and Secretary of Treasury Yellen, supported the deal. All three understand how important the U.S.-Japan relationship is. However, Biden is much more motivated by constructing his legacy as the most pro-union president after a politically disappointing 2024, in which he was kicked off the Democratic ticket. So the irony unfortunately, by blocking this deal, the irony is that his legacy will actually be destroying 11,000 union steelworker jobs and devastate their communities.
What impact, William, is Biden's decision to block the deal having on the relationship between the U.S. and Japan? I mean, these are two close allies, supposedly.
Sure, certainly, yeah. I think what he has done has made very little sense. Diplomatically, this decision is unpopular in Tokyo. The Japanese government certainly has protested. However, the Japanese government is also more focused on working with the incoming Trump administration on areas of shared interest, such as energy, investments, and defense. And that's what they're primarily focused their energy on, instead of wasting more political capital with the outgoing Biden administration.
So is there any chance that Donald Trump might somehow reverse this decision? Is that possible still?
Well, I think it's hard to say. However, I will note that Trump has previously voiced his opposition to this deal, but he's also made it clear that Trump wants strong U.S. manufacturing and high-quality jobs. And so Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel's aggressive $2.7 billion investment to revitalize the U.S. steel industry is a gift-wrapped opportunity for Trump to renegotiate the deal into one that will serve U.S. manufacturing and workers. So it's really up to him to make that decision.
Now, Nippon Steel is standing firm on the U.S. steel takeover. It's still challenging that. It wants to go ahead with it. It's filed a legal challenge against Biden's decision, calling it, quote, illegal interference. Can you follow this reasoning about illegal interference?
Sure. Well, certainly, look, the deal was supposed to be reviewed on national security grounds. Legally, it had passed all the hurdles, but it was under national security review. However, the Biden administration has intervened in it to make it not actually about national security, because it has been, it's under the guise of national security, but it was really more about Biden's determination to secure his historical legacy as a pro-union president. It's also involved political interference from the USW and Cleveland Cliffs, the rival bidder, to monopolize U.S. blast furnace steel production, as well as Biden advisors like U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai, who claim that they are protecting the U.S. steel industry, while all they're doing is actually stifling its ability to grow and compete in an increasingly hostile economic environment.
So would you say then that a takeover would actually be good for the U.S. economy and its workforce?
Well, I wouldn't call it a takeover. I would say that the Nippon Steel U.S. Steel merger would be a benefit to the American economy as a whole, right? It's a $2.7 billion investment to address aging equipment at U.S. Steel facilities, $500 million annually of Nippon Steel's R&D to provide cutting-edge steelmaking technology. And what this means is actually a more competitive American steel industry in the face of Chinese excess steel capacity dumping, securing 11,000 union steelworker jobs, and prevents a monopoly of blast furnace steel by a single sole manufacturer, Cleveland Cliffs, in the United States, which will affect, obviously, American consumers and American businesses.
Okay, just very briefly, how does this fit into the U.S., Japan, South Korea cooperation on security issues? Because Biden has just rejected this as a security risk. Just in a few words.
Yeah, of course. So I think this action was an unnecessary strain on U.S., Japan, and Korean relations at a time when we need to focus on finding ways to work cooperatively in the face of challenging circumstances in the Pacific. There are no structural reasons why this should really harm our cooperation, but it's a very unwelcome and unnecessary distraction.
William, thank you very much for your analysis. That was William Chou of the Hudson Institute.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.